Hello, I'm Marie Howard, and I currently serve on the staff team for Contemplative Outreach as coordinator of volunteers. And I'm here to express my excitement about our 40 years of our continuing service for Contemplative Outreach and saying how amazing it is because most of the uh, programs that the churches or religious programs have a much shorter lifespan than 40 years. So this is amazing. So welcome to everybody. When Father Thomas and Basil Pennington and William Menninger first introduced centering prayer out of the monastery, the Trappist monastery, Thomas was the one that knew from the very beginning that if this was to really reach people in the world, so to speak, that it will need lay volunteers. And so in 1984, when contemplative outreach began, it began with that idea in mind that contemplative outreach would be a resource to help people deepen their prayer and provide training or formation so that these people could go out and share this prayer with others. So that was the very beginning, and then really it began with the introductory workshop, 6 continuing sessions, and then suggestion that people who really wanted to deepen themselves would attend a 10-day intensive retreat where the spiritual journey presentations were available as our foundational teaching. Conferences like this one began in 1998 at the suggestion from our bylaws that the corporation needed to meet with their membership once a year. And so we met and we began what Thomas felt was the real purpose of the conference, and that was to enrich and support the volunteers, and that those who attended would take something home with them to share with their local groups. And that continued all through our conferences, that was the main purpose. In 2021, we were beginning to plan our in-person conference when we realized with COVID, we just could not do it. It had to move to online. But fortunately, we were ready and we had a great backup team to really make that conference work online. It was a wonderful experience. So 2023 would have been the alternate year for us to have another conference, but the board and staff met and said, well, since 2024 is our 40th year, let's plan 2024. So here we are, celebrating 40 years. I began my journey with contemplative outreach and Thomas Keating in 1985. And the Thomas Keating I met back then evolved a lot over his life that I experienced, but his basic teachings were always the same. And if you recall, one of his basic teachings was for centering prayer, is that the letting go of thoughts during the prayer also allows us to let go of things that don't serve us well in our life, or allow room for us to listen and hear when the Spirit is prompting us to do something new or to explore new territory within our volunteer service. So the wonderful thing about Thomas Keating and me is that my experience is that contemplative outreach also continued to really operate, if you will, with the changing needs of our community. As needs changed, we were already in contemplative outreach ready to make changes. We knew that one size doesn't fit all, that we have to be prepared for this new generation and new people who are coming to us, the diversity. So Also, one of the responsibilities that comes, though, with a lot of changes is knowing what really needs to be reserved and preserved. And that, I would say, Thomas asked us to do with the essentials of the teaching of centering prayer. They remain as they were from the beginning. Back in the year of 2004, we were at a conference in Toronto, and a team of 4 was named to celebrate our 20th anniversary by going out on a fundraising tour. And Thomas decided that if he was to be a part of this, there had to be one event on that weekend devoted to enriching and helping support local volunteers. And so for 3 years, Father Thomas Keating, Father Carl Rico, Gail Fitzpatrick Hopler, and myself visited over 32 cities with our weekend program to fundraise and enrich. And that's when I had the privilege of seeing Thomas behind the scenes, of getting to know him in a little different way. And if thinking about this, I recall that when Peter Jones was doing the documentary for Thomas's life, Peter's Jones is Thomas's nephew, and when he was putting that together, he was asking some of the monks to summarize how they would name or how they would describe Thomas. And 2 of the monks that appear on that film said, "He's the real deal." And I thought about that. He certainly was the real deal, in that here he was aging, a monk who could have stayed home, but instead was out traveling to the individual volunteers to enrich them as best he could with the time he had left. And it was also encouraging to me to see his gentle way of approaching the people on the road, so to speak. Because after 9/11, when we were on this tour, security at the airports was very tight. And there were long lines, and you had to take off your shoes. And so Thomas had his big Trappist boots that he had to take off and then put back on again. But he never complained, and he never really, if you will, moved out of his own giftedness of valuing each of these people in that he came across within the security of the airport. He would greet them with a smile, that soft, gentle smile, and look into their eyes. And what I observed what he was doing is something he had taught all along, is that he was valuing the God in each and every person. He always kept that as part of who he was. So again, at the end of his life, he was spending a great deal of his energy updating the vision so that he could leave behind what I call a blueprint for us. And that vision has commentaries which kind of spell out what he expected us to be carrying out from the teachings he left with us. And so we have a wonderful gift from Thomas Keating, and one that I believe will live on. And I'd just like to close with saying that in the event of our 9/11 in the United States with a terrible disaster, it affected the whole world. But Thomas wrote a little condolence to people who were in pain because that pain was so deep. And there was one little phrase from that I'd like to share with you because I think it fits all of us and our leaders, certainly in the world today as well. But each of us will experience in our life pain or difficult situations. And here's his little word of wisdom that I'll invite you to hear. Listening to the Spirit in silent prayer is the key for knowing what to do. Action is most effective when it comes from this place. So, what a gift we have been given with the life of Thomas Keating. He certainly was the real deal. Thank you.